Welcome to another week of the Dan K Show here. Dan K alongside my man Lucas Jones. Right in front of the old holiday tree here, we've got our Michael Trout angel atop the tree. That's how I like to adorn the tree inside of our wonderful studio here. Dan K Studios, Dan K, Lucas Jones. Time for the three things. Dan K Show, three things. Thing number one, we got new Thunder Buddies, Lucas. Thunder Buddies for life, that is. It's the Twin City Thunder coming to a town near you if you are in Maine. Mainers beware. We're going to be talking about this new franchise coming up next. Thing number two, Uncle Nasty doing it again. Uncle Nasty, a fan out there in Colorado with a radio show, a fan of some Minnesota hockey, a fan of USPHL hockey, gave us some bumpers you're going to be hearing on the show. He gave us all kinds of stuff. Thank you, sir. We're going to be using them going forward. And thing number three, we're not the jinx. We're not the jinx of the Islanders Hockey Club. It is official after months and months of hockey. This team has finally lost a game that we did not attend. They were 20-1 at one point. They're now 2 losses. They've now gotten their second loss. Connecticut Junior Rangers come up with a big-time win, and IHC bounces right back and takes the win the next day. I mean, they're not going on a losing streak. They still have yet to lose 2 in a row. It's been a great start for them. At least we're not the jinxes. We didn't do anything wrong. And now we're going to try to do a bunch right, because coming up next, it's the Dan K Show. Let's get it. Dan K Show episode 14, Lucas. We're getting deep into this season. We're getting deeper into the standings now. We're getting closer. We're starting to see the division races shape up. And you know, we could talk all about that coming up here, but now it's time to talk about the new Thunder Buddies coming to town. We got the Twin City Thunder, and if you're a Maina watching this and you got that lobster pot boiling and you want to watch some hockey when you're done eating, you're going to have a chance to do it USPHL style now. The Twin City Thunder with some of the best uniforms I've seen in a while. They're going to be coming to town next year. They're going to be playing in Maine. They're going to be playing premier USPHL hockey, some high-level, top-quality hockey in the footprint of the NCAA's best and brightest schools, you know, up here in the Northeast. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun. Lucas, talk about the challenges and also the excitement that comes with being a new franchise and a new organization in the USPHL.
Well, you know, one of the things that you can get excited about right away is a social media presence.
Yeah.
You know, regardless of how you may feel about social media, in today's day and age, it is ever-present, it is all-knowing, and it is so important. You know, we saw the New Hampshire Monarchs coming into this season really pave the way for their season with their social media presence. And I think the Thunder are going to do the same thing from what we've seen with them already. You know, you touched on the uniforms, Dan. The uniforms are, as some of the young people would say nowadays, lit.
Lit, like this Christmas tree.
Did I get that right?
Oh, he got it right. Okay. He got it right. Lit. As he did a scathing remark about social media, which showed his age. But then, after a nice... He used yo last week in a tweet. If you haven't seen it yet, go to his Twitter. He used yo. He's hip. He's with it. Lucas starting to get with the young crowd here. This tree lit. Jerseys lit, incredible jerseys. These things are top notch. They are fire. This team's going to be looking good on the ice. And this is a team that not just going to be looking good jersey wise. I think this is a team, that Maine area, there's a lot of Mainers right now playing in Mass, playing in the USPHL in New Hampshire, playing in a lot of different places. Now you can stay home, stay in your backyard and play some big time hockey. Just how good do you think this team can be?
I think they could be great. You know, the Premier League is so challenging.
Yeah.
You know, you got a lot of teams with, you know, some programs that date back, you know, a few years now, and they're kind of settled in. But I think what you have to do with the Thunder is you have to develop your strategy, and you have to just come in and try it. You can't be afraid to buy 110% into a strategy.
Yeah.
You know, there's something to be said for, you know, going in and getting your feet wet, you know, hit the ground skating, I suppose would be the better metaphor.
Yeah.
But you also have to be confident in your game plan. You have to have guys that are bought into the game plan. You know, you haven't seen a lot of these teams. You haven't encountered a lot of the teams that already exist in the Premier Division, their strategies, but they also haven't encountered you yet. Yeah. So it's going to be kind of a feeling out period, I think, for both the existing teams and the new Thunder.
It's going to be exciting. Thunder Buddies for life. I'm pumped. I mean, think about Maine. Luke's and I were talking about it. I mean, we get to go travel to a lot of these venues. I mean, think about a nice little fall trip up to Maine. I could ride a moose. You can hang out. We can eat some maple syrup, eat some lobster rolls. It could be just the best trip and watch some great hockey. How excited are you to add in the state of Maine right now? You know, add back the state of Maine into the league football.
You know, I love Maine. I've been up there a few times, and I love that state. You know, even when producer Lena heard about the Maine, she's like, well, can I go?
Yep.
And we said, absolutely, you can go. It is so much fun, you know, the food, the culture, everything about it. I know I'm excited to get a chance to travel there. Dan is, and so is producer Lena. So we're excited to welcome this new team into the USPHL. Dan, speaking of new teams, we have some footage from the Minnesota Blue Ox, who are doing quite well in their division.
The bottom line is loyalty, boys, is listen up. Loyalty is everything in life, and it's rare. Do you understand me? You might think you got 2,000 Facebook friends. They're all loyal. I got news for you. If you got 5 out of those 2,000 that are loyal, you'll be lucky. It's one of the most important characteristics there is in life, okay? And it reflects on how you play a game. The loyal guys, the guys that are dropping in front of shots, the guys that are finishing checks or coming to their buddy's rescue in the corner because he's getting double teamed. All right? That's loyalty. That's what we're building here.
Wow. That's the only thing I could say about that, Lucas. You watch that video, you watch the professional video content. This is a team that is part owned by Bruce Boudreau, a big-time name in the hockey world, big-time coach over there with the Minnesota Wild, who have been going wild the last couple of years. And you look at this team, they want to build that professional atmosphere. They want to be, they said it in the video, a part of this community. They want to give to the community as much as the community is giving back to them by showing up, by supporting, by being a part of this. You cannot beat what this team is doing. You cannot be more professional. And you know, we just talked about the Twin City Thunder coming into the league next year, being a new team. Is there a better blueprint for doing it the right way than what the Minnesota Blue Ox have been this past year?
Definitely not. You know, the Blue Ox have come in and they've completely, you know, defy all expectations is not necessarily the right turn of a phrase, but you know, when you get a new team, like I said, there's a period of time where you expect them to find their footing. The Blue Ox have steamrolled past finding their footing to finding themselves at the top of their division.
I'll tell you what, this Blue Ox team, they take, you want to talk about Blue Ox, right? You want to talk about the ox. You want to talk about the reliable ox that can plow the field, and it just kind of, it doesn't work too fast. It doesn't work too slow. It just works at its pace. An ox is going to move when an ox is going to move, right? You can just wait for it to do its job. That's what this hockey team does. They're not doing too much. They're not doing too little. They play the game they have to play. They go out on the ice every day. They put in the work. They're 21-1-1. You want to talk about a winning mantra? This is a team we didn't talk about last week when we went through some of our unsung heroes, and we missed out by not talking about this Blue Ox team. This team's 21-1-1 with 116 goals for, 63 against, and I'll tell you what, they're playing in one of the toughest divisions in this premier level. So they're not playing cake games. They don't have cupcakes, right? We've talked about the Ironwood Yoopers enough. They have to deal with the Yoopers. They have to deal with the Mullets. They have to deal with the Moose. They've got a ton of great teams to deal with. And they have a guy like Askari Home, who is just dominant this year, 41 points. This team, Lucas, to be in first place, to be 21-1-1, to be brand new. How do you do it? How do they get this done?
Well, I'll tell you what, Dan, 63 goals against is how you get that done.
Yeah.
When you have a defense that produces like the Blue Ox defense does, only allowing 63 goals in that division, forget the 116 goals they put up.
Yeah.
When you only let 63 goals get by you, that in itself is a recipe for success. Because as we've learned many times on the show, if you don't let the other team score any goals, you have a much better chance of winning.
I mean, we're good at that. It's like John Madden used to have probably the best piece of actual data he gave me on an episode on a game was when he said to Pat Summerall, you know, when it's muddy, it's harder to run. And that's something that I learned from him. From Lucas, I've learned that more goals wins hockey games. And that's what they're doing. They're winning hockey games in bunches. They got my man Josh Grooney in net, 2.31 goals against average. Big time team. Do they have what it takes to make a run at a title this year? And just how much of an accomplishment would that be to win a title in your first year?
Well, I mean, let's talk accomplishment. So it would be a huge accomplishment for them to win a title in their first year. Do I think they could make a run? I think they're making their run. I think they're already on their run. You said an ox moves at their pace. I don't think anybody's going to be able to stop this ox on the way to the title game. Now, as you know, with the title, sometimes some crazy things can happen. You know, once you hit the playoffs, it's like a clean slate. But I think this team is making its run. It's making its case as to why it's the top team out there. We'll just have to wait and see.
We'll have to wait and see. And you say an ox moves at its own pace. How about a cougar? How about the Chicago Cougars? And the Cougars looked like they were just flat out spraying away with this thing a few weeks back. It looked like this premier Midwest East division was going to be all Cougars all the time, all the way through. Next thing you know, you see Kalkaska starts to fight their way back in. Next thing you know, you see Motor City playing a little better. Now you look at the Detroit Fighting Irish led by head coach Dan Vasquez. And this Detroit Fighting Irish team gets themselves within 5 points going into the weekend with 2 games against the Chicago Cougars. They fought valiantly. They dropped both games just by 2 goals. How great has it been to watch this Detroit Fighting Irish team battle back into this race?
Well, I always love watching a team that can battle back. Especially this early in the season. Not even at the halfway point yet. There's still so much hockey left to play. I'm sure all these coaches, especially out there, are saying to their guys, no point difference is insurmountable.
Exactly.
All it is a number of games that we have to win and they have to lose, and put it in your hands. Because there's nothing worse as a team to have a playoff run not be in your hands, to leave it up to another team. So these guys are fighting tooth and nail out there to be able to put themselves in a position to be 1 or 2 games back as we get into the closing point of the season.
And you look at Josh Weber with this squad, wearing the A, an assistant captain. This is a youngster, Lucas. This is a year 2000. This young man doesn't know a world where there's a 19 in front of the year. Year 2000, 12 goals, 22 assists. He's leading the team in points. He's leading the team on and off the ice. This Detroit Fighting Irish team really finding their stride here lately. But the Chicago Cougars, you want to talk about, they start running away with it. They start to kind of come back to the pack. Next thing you know, they take those 2 games. Just how big must that have been for the locker room, for the coach's mantra, for Brad Stofers when he goes home and he says, guys, we got to keep fighting, right? And sometimes you get a big lead, you start to fall off a bit. How good was this weekend for him as a coach, for the team, and just kind of getting that mantra going again, getting themselves marching in the right direction?
Well, I'm sure the discussion in that locker room was, look, we're up by 5 points and we've got them for 2 games. That puts us right in an area where now we could only be up by 1 point.
Yeah.
When you're that close, you got to tell your team, like, these are 2 games that have to be won.
Yeah.
At the very least, you split, but really you need to win both these games to maintain that lead because there's so many games left. Having a 1-point lead and a 9-point lead are worlds apart in terms of the mentality of a team, the morale of a locker room, especially this early.
And we have, sorry about that, folks. That's just a jump in with a nice little commercial there. But we look at this team in net, and Alex Jones is a guy that stands out to you with a 1.70 goals against average, 6-3 on the year. He's got a shutout. This Chicago Cougars team does it from the net forward. You know, they're leading point getter with 27 points. They're not a team that's looking to do it in a flashy way. They're a team that's going to play the game both sides of the ice. They're a team that's going to be physical when they need to be, and they're going to compete. And that's what Brad Stopers talks about with us, compete. These guys have to compete day in and day out. They're doing that, and they cannot let their foot off that gas pedal because Kalkaska, Detroit, both trying to fight their way back into this thing, and they could be back in it soon. We're going to be back soon, Lucas. We're going to move on from this, and we're going to go to our favorite news segment, the Wraparound, where we're going to talk about these NCDC standings and get you up to date on all the haps from the weekend.
The Dan K Show's coming to your town. The Dan K Show, covering everything USPHL from the NCDC, Premier and Elite. The Dan K Show, starring Dan K and Lucas Jones.
And we're back, folks. It's time for the wraparound as Dan simulates what appears to be a goalie looking for the puck as it goes behind the net. It's time to do the wraparound for the NCDC division. Ready, set, go.
Gophers.
Islanders Hockey Club in first place, 21-2-0, 42 points. They are leading the league in offensive production and defensive production. Way to go, Islanders Hockey Club. Let's move to the rest of the division. Junior Bruins in second, 18-5-2. Jersey Hitmen just behind them, 18-7-1, only 1 point separating the two of them, the battle for second place. Now down to fourth, the South Shore Kings at 16-5-3, and the Connecticut Junior Rangers at 15-7-2, only 3 points separating them. We've got battles aplenty for first, second, third, and all the way down the list. Northern Cyclones next, 13-11-2, 28 points. Syracuse Stars, 11-12-4, 26 points. Powell Junior Islanders, 9-14-3 at 21 points. Rochester Monarchs, 8-5-3, 19 points. Boston Bandits, 8-16-2 with 18 points. And the New Jersey Rockets, 121-1 with 3 points, rounding out the NCDC standings.
And Lucas, we go down to the leaders now in point getters. The leading point getters in your USPHL NCDC, and leading the way right now from the Boston Junior Bruins, a man I call the Dutch law firm. It's Gus Van Ness. And Gus Van Ness has been Gus Van Nasty so far this year with 34 points. It's a young man that finds himself on some hockey watch lists here. This is a young man that's played in the IIHF World Juniors. This guy comes to play each and every day. I talked to Alex Thomas about him last time we were in Boston. Alex Thomas, if you don't know him, if you haven't listened to a Boston Junior Bruins broadcast yet, this guy's incredible, impeccable, stupendous. I don't have enough adjectives to describe Alex Thomas. But Alex Thomas and I were talking about him, and he went through a little doldrums there for a week or two in the middle of the season, just kind of feeling it out, feeling out his line mates. He's back, and he's bigger, and he's better than ever. I watched last time I saw him on the ice. He was fast, he was quick, and he was skilled. Gus Van Ness leading the way. Jeff Lacerdo has been absurdo all year long. He's been atop of this list lots and lots. He's got 33 points, followed by Johnny Del Rocket DeRoche with 32 points. Sage England, he's doing it for the motherland, for England, and he's a little in time with the Sage right there, you know, seasoning it up. Seasoning up the back of the net is Sage England. And finally, Jeremy Lavallee, who has an incredible hockey name, Lucas, with 31 points. There's your top five. Drennan Atherton, and we watched him play for the Northern Cyclones, strong in net. Drennan Atherton leading the way in saves percentage at .942. He's saving over 94% of his shots faced. Connor O'Brien, a lucky Irish, with a 929. He's tied with Troy Coburn. Following that up is Justin Ferguson. J-Man, Justin, just in time to make every save for that IHC squad. And Ryan McKinjack at 923. Those are your goaltending save percentage leaders. Lucas, I've got one more update here from this side. You know, we talk about the new feeder model, right? The fact that you have these teams feeding up from the Premier and the Elite into the NCDC, and it has reared its beautiful head again as Kyle Podwika of the Charlotte Rush is going to move up to his big club. He's going to move to the New Jersey Rockets of the NCDC, a big-time promotion for Kyle Podwika. Congratulations, number 9 of the Charlotte Rush, but number 1 in your hearts today, Kyle Podwika with a big-time the promotion this week. Lucas, talk about that model again. You know, the model of the promotions, and we've seen it this year really show up, and How important is it to have that model for these young players?
Oh, it's great. It gives some of the younger players, opportunity to, get up to the NCDC level and see what the play is like up there. It gives these NCDC teams a chance to evaluate these guys from, the premier division that are coming up to play for them. And it also gives these players a little bit of kind of a runaround a little bit. It lets them move to these different areas to see what these different teams are like. It kind of shakes things up. It's not the traditional way that these things are done, but the feeder system allows for these kids to get a taste of what playing in the NCDC is like, and who knows, maybe they'll be up there for more than a few weeks.
That is the end game. You go all the way up the system, you go through the ranks, and this young man taking a flight from Charlotte up to New Jersey to play for those Rockets, he's going to be pumped up, I'm sure, his first game on the ice. Congratulations, Kyle Podwika. Congratulations to all of y'all in the NCDC doing that hockey. We're going to move on to the empty net, and we're going to talk mustaches. It's a mustache debate to close out the show, and I can't say mustaches more than once.
You are watching The Dan K Show. Everything USPHL. From the NCDC to the Premier and Elite Leagues. The Dan K Show with Dan K and Lucas Jones.
It's empty net time, and you know what that means this week? It means mustache talk. If you follow the Dan K Show, if you don't, go on Twitter, follow at the Dan K Show so you can get on the empty net like the Charlotte Rush did this week. The Charlotte Rush filled the internet with mustaches aplenty this week as they were doing it for charity. It was all for Movember, Lucas, in the name of a good cause. Some great, decent, and terrible mustaches made their way onto the internet, and we shared them all. So if you were following along, I'm sure we filled your timelines. I had plenty of people reaching out saying, thanks to @DanK for filling my entire timeline with mustache pictures. And I said, you're welcome, everybody, because it was a gift to watch this go on. We were trending in the mustache world, Lucas. How fun was that night with all these tweets coming in from the Charlotte Rush?
Well, it was at first it was a little confusing. I was watching a movie and I had my phone in my pocket, and I was like, who is trying to get in touch with me? As it turns out, every mustache in Charlotte was filling out my inbox.
Every mustache in Charlotte.
But Dan, now I must ask you a question.
Oh, here he comes.
Who was your favorite mustache?
Who was my favorite mustache? Lucas and I, we don't agree much, and I don't think we agree this time. When I look at the mustache, I'm not just looking at the mustache itself. I'm looking at the effort that goes into it, and I'm looking at the overall swagitude of the mustache, because people don't realize mustaches are swagalicious. And Mr. Antonio Demacopoulos, the Demolition Man, I call him, Demacopoulos put on a demo of how you should do mustache and growing. He literally curled the mustache and went with the flow, the side part flow. My winner of it, and there's also we had somebody submit with a firefighter's outfit and holding a baby. I mean, that one was tough to go against. I mean, he's playing to all the senses. Teared up. You were like, this could be the one, until Antonio Demacopoulos, the Demolition Man, came in, and that was the best mustache I saw this week.
Well, I mean, as is usual, I disagree, but I think it comes down to how we view mustaches. Dan's talking about swagalicious, which is a word that I'm pretty sure he made up.
Yes.
And as much as Dan is a flashy guy, I prefer the opposite. I think a mustache should be not swagalicious. It should be robust. It should project. It should be calm, yet strong. And so I'm forced to go with Connor Tuttle's mustache.
Connor Tuttle's mustache.
It was
Look at this thing, folks.
Perfectly groomed. It was where it needed to be. It didn't get curled up. It didn't have gel. It didn't have any product in it. It was a working man's mustache. It was a mustache that came onto his face and just said, I'm going to hang out here if that's cool with you. And Connor was like, yeah, man, that's cool with me.
That mustache owns property in the Adirondacks. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of mustache he had. And I'll tell you what, folks, if you haven't seen these mustaches, we put the two up that we picked. If you have one you picked, let us know on Twitter. If we heard from the New Hampshire Monarchs that were going to be sending us facial hair pics. They haven't yet. I'm waiting for it. They had picture day. Players at home, if you're watching, if you think that you have the best flow, the best facial hair in the league, make sure to tweet it at the Dan K Show, because at the end of the year we're going to have our all-flow team. And I'll tell you what, the Charlotte Rush might be filling up the entire roster right now with the way that they came out in droves to reach out to the Dan K Show this week. They made the empty net fun.
They absolutely did, and shout out to everyone else who tweeted at us. We had a lot of people tweeting at us, over the weekend, and especially over Thanksgiving weekend. We get to read them all. We don't always have time to mention them all on the show, but keep tweeting at us.
Yep, keep tweeting.
Keep tweeting at us. This weekend we're going to be watching some games, hanging out, but next weekend, taking a little trip.
We're going to Florida. We're going to be in beautiful, balmy, wonderful, stupendous Florida. Again, I'm using all my adjectives today. And Florida is, Lucas, on the hockey lexicon of best weather to be in and watch hockey. Is there anything better than Florida?
I don't think so. Florida and hockey are pretty much synonymous in my mind. I'm excited because hockey rinks can be a bit cold. The Northeast can be a bit cold.
Yes.
And I have a bum knee, so I'm excited to get down to some warm weather and give old Lefty a break.
Give old Lefty a break, and we hope that you reach out to us while we're on our way down to Florida. We hope we see you down there. If you can't make it to Florida, make sure to watch from home as we tweet along throughout the day and we make videos aplenty. Dan K and Lucas Jones coming to a city near you and a rink near you sometime soon, I'm sure. We travel the world for your pleasure, folks. We hope you enjoy watching the Dan K Show. With that in mind, Lucas, the empty net is over. The goal's been scored. We've cleared the ice, and we got to bony it one more time, get the Zam out there, and clean it up. Lucas, before the ice is cut one last time, do you have any parting words? He does not. For you Zamboni operators out there, stay strong. For you hockey fans, stay stronger. For you USPHL players, keep playing. Dan K's on the mic. It's always hockey night. And when Lucas Jones is here, I don't know what happens.